History delivers a wide range of heroes, myths, and legends alike. You know William Wallace. You know Julius Caesar. You know Cleopatra. These names, among many, find their ways into classrooms and textbooks. We know of their accomplishments, their defeats, as well as their struggles and betrayals. This channel, Be Thou Legendary, brings you insight on people who have lived in history but may not have gotten the recognition they deserve. What can we learn from these legendary people? I invite you to come with me on a journey from a road not often traveled upon. This is a legendary road. People have tried and failed but sparked a change beyond their lifetime. This is Be Thou Legendary. Boudica was known as a warrior queen of the Iceni people. She was Celtic and a queen that revolted against the British in AD 60. Her name means victory, coming from the Celtic word Boud. Having been considered one of many historically popular women in history, what makes her legendary? Why were her accomplishments so significant? Why should you even care about the name Boudica? Some people believe she belonged to a pretty rich family, or at least carried royalty in her blood, but most accounts can say she was a woman hell-bent on vengeance for what she lost. On the case of ancient Roman misogyny, we know that women were not very much revered. Celtic women warriors often fought alongside their men. If it meant the survival of their kingdom, more specifically the British Isles and Ireland, women wasted no time fighting as if they had to. In this case, there was no option, as the end result was either slavery or death. On the accounts of Tacitus and Dio Cassius, they make this account clear in their writings. Boudica was 18 years old when she married the king of the Iceni tribe, Prasutagus. The Romans conquered southern England in AD 43, forcing Celtic tribes to submit. The Romans allowed Prasutagus to continue ruling, but only as an ally of the Roman Empire. In his will, Prasutagus assigned half his personal property to the Roman emperor and the rest to his daughters. Following his death 17 years later, the Romans ignored his will and interpreted his will as a means of submission to the state. His land and property were taken, and what remained of his kingdom was seized. The Romans then proceeded to publicly flog Boudica and ordered for her two daughters to be raped. The ancient Roman historian Dio Cassius recorded of Boudica's promise of vengeance. She said, "Nothing is safe from Roman pride and arrogance. They will deface the sacred and will deflower our virgins. Win the battle or perish. That is what I, a woman, will do." Boudica understood her mission, what was next. She knew what she was up against. Ancient Rome's pride resided with domination of an area, while spreading the power of its patriarchy. Romans didn't like women who broke that traditional boundary, a boundary that threatened the privileges and rights held by its men. Women were silenced, their stories changed by men and often exaggerated, but the Celtic society was strong and never bowed to the traditions of the day. Women ruled, participated in politics, expressed in artwork, and chose who they married and divorced. Boudica's response to the Romans' treachery resulted in revolt. In her retaliation, she was unsuccessful as the Romans harshly reduced the Iceni's population. She eventually exercises more triumphs in her people's name, therefore leaving Rome in danger of losing control of its stolen province. She led her people in a vengeful fight for freedom. Boudica goes on to defeat the Roman Ninth Legion. With her revenge not yet satisfied, she proceeds to terrorize and destroy three major Roman provinces: Camalodunum, London, and Verulamium. A Roman governor by the name of Gaius Suetonius Paulinus eventually challenged Boudica's efforts. He marshals his army towards Boudica and her rebels. The exact location of where the battle took place is unclear. Despite the few numbers the Roman governor had, they managed to defeat Boudica and her rebels. Boudica's forces massacred about 70,000 of the Roman forces. Her efforts failed, and historical records allude to Boudica and her daughters killing themselves to avoid being taken prisoner. Although her death is unclear, the Romans will go on to control Britain for the next 300 years until AD 410. Yet we're still left with a pressing question. Was Boudica legendary? Can she be considered a champion of the oppressed? Or is she just nothing more than a feminist icon? Or just a brutal murderer? Lord Tennyson, a 19th century poet, actually glorifies Boudica in his poem titled Boadicea. Numerous English ships from the late 17th century were named after her, with the title Boadicea. Boudica slowly becomes an icon of resistance against the patriarchal system. She is celebrated today as a national heroine and embodies a struggle for justice and independence. But how can you justify her slaughter of cities with civilian population all in the name of justice? Her own army was massacred at the hands of Gaius Suetonius Paullinus soldiers. Granted, she was humiliated soon after she became a widow. What would you have done? We know the Iceni were on good terms with the Romans before the death of Prasutagus. The treaty made by Emperor Claudius and the Iceni left no hostility until Boudica's husband dies. They were allies until the Romans broke the treaty and incited Boudica's revolt. Could have Boudica's efforts be nothing more than a personal vengeance mission rather than this noble cause for freedom that we all want to believe? Roman brutality was historic in those days. It may have something to do with Boudica's going over the edge. Remember that first century nationalism couldn't have existed. It would be unnatural to believe that Boudica's soaking of vengeance over the Romans had anything to do with rights and freedom. Everyone's interest was of their own, no matter how much they wanted many to believe otherwise. At the final battle between the Roman commander and Boudica, it's reported that Suetonius took a stand against Boudica's army with only 10,000 men against Boudica's 230,000. She never stood a chance against Roman stratagems. Romans fought better, trained more extensively, and ultimately in the end overcame Boudica's numbers. Boudica is an important part of history. But in the end, her leadership costed the lives of her own people. Was she legendary? I still believe she was. What do you think?